Arguably the most expensive mistake people make when they're building on raw land has nothing to do with water, power, or where you put the house. It's the access to it. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 6 things that matter most when you're developing raw land in the order that they matter. Our parcel is long and rectangular, going uphill. So in order to build where we wanted to, where we were camping and where we loved the view the most, where we thought the drainage was going to be best, it was a long road to cut all the way up, winding up to get to this high spot that you see here. And we knew that it was going to be a lot more expensive than building down lower. So we made a conscious decision to do that, and we built it into the budget. As far as access goes, getting your culverts in, getting your road base in, getting your heavy equipment in, grading everything, make sure your drainage is good. That road has to last forever, you know, as long as your house does. You can always modify it, you can always maintain it, but you don't want to redo it. So the road base, the heavy equipment, time and energy costs, fuel, are all things I think are probably often unbudgeted or under budgeted when people are developing raw land. Now let's jump into principle number 2, which is know your land. This is what I call site intelligence. Now the way that you're going to know your land is by visiting it and spending time there. I'm 6 hours from where we were when we bought this land. This is a pretty long haul for us to come out here. We live here full time now, but when we bought this land, we sat on it for a long time. And if you want to see my video, the 5 steps to how I went from completely dead broke living in my van to being able to buy this land and the adjacent properties and live debt free, I'll link that video right up here. But yeah, we had to sit on this for a long time in order to be able to save up enough money to build on it. And in that process, we would come here to learn our land. I have a background in security, and one of the things that's highly recommended when you own land for security is to know your land. To be able to walk it at night, you pretty much know where every tree and stump and rock is. That's a significant advantage over an enemy that might be trying to attack your land. So part of that is knowing where the water flows, knowing where the snowdrifts build up, knowing safe spots from wind and direct sun and highs and lows and easiest areas to traverse to get from one side of the other to the other. Now, if you're on 1 acre, that's not going to take very long. But if you have a bigger property, I mean, we're on 106 acres now, but we started with 20. And 20 acres is quite a bit. I mean, you know, that's our house way up there. I don't know if you can see it. I'm actually down here at the gate now. It's the front gate. But this is quite a bit of land. So we came here, we found a little secret path where I could meander up through here on my Jeep. And no one had been spending any time here. There were no roads into this land. There were no established trails. This is just raw, untouched land. It had been sitting here for 100 years since they put the perimeter fence in that was rusting and falling over. So we wanted to really understand where we wanted to build. Again, drainage in monsoons. Where's the low spots, the swales, the little low areas that you want to avoid? Where does the water travel when it's pouring down rain? So we would come here. We didn't want to come here on sunny days. Wanted to come here when it was storming. And we did that, and I'm really happy with where we ended up putting the house. And I would put it exactly there again now that we've been living there for 7 years. So save yourself a ton of money, spend some time on your land, really think this through, know where your boundaries are, and let's move on now to principle number 3. Principle number 3 is build the big stuff first, the permanent stuff, the major infrastructure that you're going to need, not only for what you need immediately, for your immediate vision of building your homestead, but for your future expansion, because those things are hard to put in later. And spending quite a bit of time, especially now, you can use AI to do these renderings. You can fly a drone, take photos of your land, plan. You've done your site intelligence, so you know where the water drains. Keeping all that in mind, you can now start planning where your hoop house is going to be, where your chickens might be. And in juxtaposition to your home and where the water lines need to be, your irrigation, your future conduit may be underground to go out to an outbuilding if you want electricity in your outbuilding. But planning ahead and having the infrastructure in the ground when you're tearing everything up initially will save you so much money later when you're, having to go back and dig up, especially if you're putting down flat work, concrete, sidewalks, driveways, anything that's going to be permanent. You do not want to have to tear that up to expand your infrastructure or to pull a line off your house underground, for example. What you would want to do to keep it under the frost line. A lot of this stuff you're just not going to know because plans change. Once you get living there and you get established, you're going to get different ideas, maybe some way to monetize your land. If you're like me, you may want to build another small home or a mini home that you could rent out on Airbnb. If you're new to the channel, we have a couple of properties here that we rent out, one long-term and one Airbnb, that pays for a lot of what we do here. So I didn't even know we were going to be doing that when I first bought here because those adjacent lots weren't even available. But when they went for sale, we realized, hey, this is a really interesting way to monetize the land, and we acted quickly, and that was not pre-planned. So, but if you can, take the time, look at the lay of the land. You're going to have livestock, you're going to plant food, you're going to build outbuildings. Try and figure out where all that infrastructure goes, so when you're out there with your excavator tearing everything up, be good to know that. Get it in the ground, spend a few $1,000s on pipes, whatever it is you're putting in, and it will be money very well spent, and you will thank yourself. And that transitions me straight into principle number 4, which is match your build pace to your cash flow. So I think there's 3 strategies to funding your off-grid build. Unless you just have a big pot of cash that you inherited, you're probably gonna have to adhere to one of these 3. Number 1 would be a remote work strategy. So you continue to work, but you're able to do things via the internet, and you don't need to be in the city, and you can work a few hours a day or several hours a day, and then just close the laptop at the end of the day or when you take a break and go out and work on your homestead. And you're getting funded as you go, assuming that you're good at what you do and you're able to keep your job. The second way, and the way that we did it, was build income property, buy or build income properties on your land somewhere. There's quite a few people on YouTube that have utilized this strategy, pretty fascinating stories. If you're really handy and you're a carpenter and you can build, say, a mini home, and you're in an area that has decent year-round access, you could build a rental property, and maybe you're working, maybe you're using the step 1 in the interim while you're building that property, and then parlay out of your job into becoming an Airbnb host and renting that. That's not dissimilar from the way we did it. We did it on maybe a slightly larger scale, where we bought considerable extra amount of land adjacent to our original homestead, and we're able to monetize those homes, one with a permanent tenant and one with short-term Airbnb. And because we're right here by Zion National Park, there's very high demand for lodging in this area, and we have a really unique cabin with an amazing view, so it stays really booked, and that's been a good strategy for us, something to consider. The third way is to sort of slowly build as you go. This is probably the way that would work best for most people. We're 6 hours from where my business was and where our home was in Southern California. It would take us 6 hours to drive here, but we would come here fairly often. We got the beautiful national parks here. We love to come here anyway. So we'd come up here, camp out on our land, do the site intelligence, check out, walk the property, think a lot about where we were gonna build, what we were gonna do, and then we'd go back home. And we wouldn't come here for another several months. And all along, we were recovering from the initial purchase of the raw land and building towards a fund that we would use as a down payment on construction costs to build our home. We did hire a contractor to build our home. Some of you will be building it yourself, but you're still gonna have all the materials, and you're gonna need considerable funds to be able to do that. So we bought the first 20 acres in 2015, and we didn't build until late 2018 and into 2019. We completed the build in 2019, but we were always coming back and forth, and meeting contractors and adding a little something. So we built the house, then we added the gate, then we added, some fencing, and we just did a little bit at a time, and then we couldn't move here for quite some time. I needed to do all of the other preparatory phases of, including selling my business before we could relocate here permanently. So this is a very long-term thinking way to do it. It's a slower way to do it. When you're not there, you have to worry about security, you have to worry about maintenance that doesn't stop for anyone. So there's things to consider about that strategy. But for a lot of you, if you're trying to get out of the city and move out somewhere to build off-grid, you're really going to need to consider that pay-as-you-go, slow but steady way of doing it. Don't skip this step, okay? You'll really regret it. And I've got an example for you. There's a road that runs through between this parcel and our original homestead parcel. And it is a county road, but it's not maintained by the county. And it's very narrow, and it was really rough when we first came up here. It's like, it's got boulders in it, and it's not a smooth drive at all. So later we improved that road in, but what we were really doing is improving a county road. They don't even want you to improve their road unless you do it to county spec, which is 60 feet wide in this particular county. And it has to have these big culverts, and everything has to be done to spec and run through the county engineers. Well, now they're thinking about doing that because we have some neighbors up here that want to make this a more permanent road, and it runs right in between our other parcels. So I don't really want that road improved. Secondarily to me not wanting it improved because I don't want the traffic going through, there's the problem of the other house that we bought over here expands out onto the county right-of-way. Actually, I don't think it was the guy that built the house. It was the guy that came in after that ended up expanding his yard basically into the county right-of-way for that road. So if I lose the fight here and they decide to expand this into a 60-foot wide county road through here, I'm gonna lose, and they're gonna send me a letter that says you need to move your fence, your propane tank, potentially my generator. There may be easements for road work, for utilities. We have easements running through for a utility line that runs down along the lower part of our property. We can't dig there, we can't build underneath it. These are all considerations that if you mistakenly build there, especially if you're building unpermitted, which I do not recommend, get your permits, and most of that will come out in the due diligence and through the permitting phase. They'll just deny it, and you'll have to take that into consideration. Ultimately, if they want to put something through and they have the right of way or an easement there, they're going to send you a letter, and you move it or they're going to move it. So I just hiked up here to our homestead. It's about a half-mile hike from where I was just now, but I'm up here at our wellhead. This is a steel casing that goes down about 400 feet into the aquifer. And I know there's lots of ways you can do water. You could do rain catchment. You're going to require, cisterns to store that water. My way is the way I'm going to talk about today because we ended up going with well water. There's no running water unless we're having a monsoon, then we have plenty of running water. But most of the time it's dead dry up here, and we do have a little pond down there, but it's seasonal. It dries up during the summer. So this was really the way for us. I would say if you're considering hauling water, I would make that as a backup plan, not your primary. If we have to haul water, we will, but that would only be if there was something wrong with the well. Yeah, this is really a good, reliable, solid way to go, especially if you have solar power like we do, where you can run the pump if the grid goes down. But your water really determines what you can do on your land and at what scale. So it can determine not only how many people in your homestead you can support, but if you're gonna have crops, if you're gonna grow your own food, even if they're little raised beds, an orchard, livestock, all of that really is highly dependent on your water and the amount of water you can get running on a given day, given week, given month, and seasonally. There's three main questions you need to ask yourself if you're developing raw land when it comes to drilling. One, are you allowed to drill? If so, how deep approximately in your area if others have been drilling? And what is the yield from those wells? How big is that aquifer? The well guys can tell you, do they think that's going to be able to support you, or are you going to have issues with your well running dry, etc.? The second question is, legally, what structure do you need to drill? You can't just call a drilling guy out there and start drilling. You're going to need to find out if you have to have water rights. Here in Utah, when we bought this 20 acres, it came with 1 acre foot of water. 1 acre foot is basically an annual amount of water that would be 1 foot deep on 1 full acre. So if you can imagine sloshing around in a rice paddy, that is a lot of water. That's certainly enough to support my family, a small orchard, a few animal units, which here they call them units, like a cow is 1 unit. So you're allowed to support a certain amount of livestock units from the amount of water you have rights to use. And third, what is your backup plan if your primary source goes down for a given period of time? I'm still working on that. We're gonna put 2 2,500 gallon cisterns right up behind this barn, and it'll have kind of like a toilet tank valve on it. So when it fills up, the valve lifts up, rises up with the water and turns off the valve. When it gets low, it turns on. So it keeps them full all the time. Those will be black cisterns, trying to prevent the UV from causing algae. But that will be gravity fed into our house should anything happen with the well. Now the well, if the grid goes down, will be powered by the solar, but there's always a chance that lightning can strike, fry your well pump. Your pump could go out for any given reason. So there's lots of times when this could be an unreliable source and you can't get the water out, it's too deep. We tried hand pumps, that idea just will not hold water, no pun intended, because you're not strong enough to pump that much water up 400 feet. It gets too heavy and you need a mechanical pump to do that. So something to consider. We're up here on a mountain, so we're way up above, and that required a lot deeper drill. I could have built down lower on our property line, which would have solved a lot of problems actually. Would have meant a lot shallower well, a lot less drilling to get to the aquifer, a lot less road work to get up here, and just overall cost of building. The further up we came, we're a 1/4 mile up from our gate, but we wanted to be up away from the road down there, and the view up here is incredible. So for us, it was worth the extra investment. Notice in the 6 principles, I didn't even touch on energy production, and that's because this was a phase 2 for us. It wasn't part of our original raw land development, but I've made lots of videos on this particular seasonally adjustable array, and if you want to see that, I'll link a video right here.